The Baltimore Ravens pull off an unreal comeback over the Cincinnati Bengals, 35-34, the final score. This team is so weird. We talk about everything that happened in the game, the pros, the cons, the worries, and the things you should feel confident about, all that and so much more coming up on a post-game edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Ravens your first listen each and every single day and just being a part of your day in general here on Locked On Ravens. We're available for you all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe. Also in audio form, where you can follow along, subscribe as well. 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Today's post-game Mr. Reaction Edition episode of Locked On Ravens is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app and use code Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. I would first of all like to give everybody who is either watching live or watching or listening in playback a round of applause. I'm giving everybody a round of applause for still being able to tune into this. I almost wasn't able to do this. My heart was pounding. I was sweating all over the place. You can see my hair is kind of crazy from what's going on. That was like Stress City. That was Stress City. And luckily we're talking about a win. Luckily we're talking about a great comeback, but like I'm sitting there and I'm loving it. Then I'm not. Then I'm loving it again. Then I'm not. And we're just feeling every single emotion. And I am drained. I am absolutely drained, but you know what? We're gonna be hype here on Locked On Ravens. And then we're also gonna be not hype about some of the things as well, because man, rough game for some aspects of this team and a great game for other aspects. Again, 35-34, the final score. I knew when the Bengals were walking down the Ravens, there was no doubt in my mind that the Bengals were going for two. They were never going to give the ball back to Lamar Jackson, right? They were never going to give the ball back to Lamar. Not after he ended up getting on a roll. The Bengals defense played, I'll give them credit. First half, they played well. But I want to give the MVP of this game, Lamar Jackson, obviously, he did great. The MVP of this game was Marlon Humphrey. He was the one that won this game for the Baltimore Ravens. And we'll talk about the defense as a whole. And I'm going to be the first to say that I don't think the Ravens can win a Super Bowl if the defense plays this way. That's not a hot take or anything. I think everybody would agree with me. But the defense has real issues. And no, you're not going to play Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase again. I think the Ravens all but dashed their playoff hopes. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are not the only good wide receiver quarterback duo that you're going to have to face. And those other teams have other good stars and an offensive line that's not Cincinnati's and a better run game, if we're being honest. But, I mean, they got the job done to me. But I think that Marlon Humphrey play, Bengals are up 21-7 with the ball. And Chase Brown gets that ball ripped out from Marlon. Ravens get the ball back and pretty much immediately score. That's when the game turned. You could see Chase Brown was running pretty scared for the majority of the game. And that was the play that turned it. But, I mean, we have to start with Lamar Jackson just from a general perspective here. This man is the MVP. I don't want anybody else to debate it, right? I don't want to do that, right? We're not talking about anybody else for MVP. It's Lamar Jackson. I'm just pulling up the official. I have the unupdated box score stats. I'm quickly going to get the actual updated box score stats. Somehow this game was better than the other one. Like somehow this game, we were like, okay, is another Cincinnati Ravens game this season really going to live up to the one that we watched in week 5? And all of a sudden, this one is just better. This one is just better. And Maximilian, I agree with you. I don't know if it'd be 0-10, but it'd be pretty close. It'd be pretty close. Lamar is a superhero, puts on that cape so many times, and this team without Lamar Jackson is not a good team, right? I think we can all say that. So Lamar Jackson on the day, 25-33, 290 yards with 4 touchdowns, almost had an interception, but it did not count. The ball hit the ground. Lamar struggled in the first half. The whole offense struggled in the first half. I thought the play calling wasn't good from Tom Lunkin in the first half. I thought the Bengals defense was able to take the Ravens out of a rhythm. They were stopping Derrick Henry. There were penalties on the Ravens. Speaking of the officiating in this game was just awful. Absolutely atrocious. Both sides, if we're being honest. The Ravens had terrible calls against them. The Bengals had terrible calls against them. There were no calls that both teams should have gotten. Get those officials out, man. I never want to see that officiating crew again. Just a terrible, horrible display of officiating from that officiating crew all the way across the board. I mean, the Ravens got a couple of penalties on them that weren't. There were ticky-tack calls, and then you got the Bengals, who the refs missed a couple of calls against the Ravens on them, and the Ravens, they have a couple calls that are missed against them. It was terrible. But regardless, Lamar Jackson ended up putting the team on his back, and you can tell, like, once Lamar gets in a rhythm, it's almost impossible to stop him. And I thought that both teams, again, this was like the first game, both teams horribly coached, multiple moments, awful. John Harbaugh in the first drive of the game challenges a 2-yard completion. I think it was Mike Gesicki. So much happened since that challenge. I think it was Gesicki. And it clearly was a catch. He lost the ball going out of bounds, but he was already down. And John Harbaugh challenges that play. Then they have to waste another timeout because they have 12 men on the field. And hey, guess what? Would have been nice to have timeouts at the end of the half, right? Would have been nice to have timeouts. So that ends up costing the Ravens. Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. I mean, look, Joe Burrow played phenomenal, right? I have, nothing bad to say about him and his performance. But that sequence, the Ravens were up, or they were down by 7 at that time? 3rd and 4, the Bengals go 2 deep shots on 3rd and 4th down. Don't even kick the field goal. Or maybe Ravens were down by 1. That was when Tucker missed the extra point, I think. Ravens were down by 1. And to me, you go over the middle of the field. The Ravens defense got cooked the whole game over the middle of the field, right? All over the middle of the field. And the Bengals decided to go for deep shots. I mean, look, this is going to be maybe a little harsh. Zach Taylor's the worst coach in the NFL. Worst coach in the NFL. It deserved to be fired, honestly, maybe even 2 years ago. And the big thing there was the Bengals couldn't get out of their own way. Neither could the Ravens in some aspects, right? I mean, 11 penalties. And I see DRB, appreciate you putting this in the chat. 11 penalties compared to the Bengals 3. So it tells you a little bit about the officiating on the night. But Zach Taylor, to me, there are a lot of bad coaches. Zach Taylor, by far and away, the worst coach in the league. And there's no way he returns to Cincinnati next season. You can bookmark that. You can clip it up. Zach Taylor's awful. Now, that benefits the Ravens, and I'll take it. I'm like, hey, Ravens can capitalize on that Zach Taylor incompetency. Hey, man, I'll take that 10 times out of 10. Joe Burrow, by the way, had to throw the ball 56 times in this game. 56 times. The Bengals have no run game whatsoever. Chase Brown only 3.2 yards per carry in this one. Khalil Herbert had a fumble on his only rush of the game. I don't even think they counted it as a rush because he fumbled the ball. So I think for the Ravens, I'm trying to catch myself if we're being honest here. And I see Bean Man here does not feel like a win. I feel like it was a win in some aspects, but it wasn't in other aspects. I totally feel what you're saying here. I totally understand this because defensively, it felt like they lost this game 10 times over. The defense is terrible. And look, we're 10 weeks into the season now. The trade deadline's done. Nobody else is walking through that door, right? It is what it is, unless you do get rid of Zach Orr, which personally I don't anticipate happening. I know there are a lot of calls for that. But as much as I want to talk about the offense in this first part of the show, I mean, Joe Burrow's incredible. Jamar Chase is incredible, right? Those are 2 perennial players at their positions, and we need to respect them as such, right? I get that. They have no one else on that offense. T. Higgins, out. Orlando Brown Jr., out. Zach Moss, out. And the Ravens gave up 34 points to that Bengals team. Now, that speaks to how good Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are. Jamar had 264 receiving yards in this game. Your one job as a defense. We've talked about this both times on this show. The one job that this defense had was stop Jamar Chase. Let anybody else but Jamar Chase beat you, and Jamar Chase almost single-handedly took this team down with Joe Burrow. That is what it is. That's what it's been, where the Ravens have a simple job and they cannot execute it. It's on Zach Orr. It's on the defenders. It's on everybody, right? I'm not putting all the blame on Zach Orr. I'm not putting all the blame on the players. It is a combination of both. Now, the Ravens missed Kyle Hamilton in this game. I'm not sure if we have an update yet from John Harbaugh. I'm sure we won't. I'm sure the Ravens will take this completely into next week, and we might not hear anything about Kyle Hamilton. Obviously looked really bad when it first happened. Right here we go. John Harbaugh said Kyle Hamilton sprained his ankle, and he did not consider it to be a serious injury. Wow. Awesome. That looked bad. Wow. That looked bad at the first. But look, if they don't have Hamilton against the Steelers and the Eagles, that could get ugly pretty quickly, right? But look, let's be honest. The Ravens weren't really stopping the Bengals with Hamilton on the field either. Like, Hamilton's a big fix for a lot of things, but he can't play as much as he can play all over the field. He can't play everywhere, right? So, hey, man, it's a win. The Ravens won the game. They're 7-3. They could easily right now be, 4-5? No, 5-5. They could easily be 5-5 and be 0-3 in the division. But instead, they're 7-3 and 2-1 in the division, and that will help them. I can't even tell you how many worlds that helps them moving into the postseason race as we are, getting ready. But hey, this is unfortunately the second straight year that Kyle Hamilton has gotten injured in a primetime game. Obviously, the first one being the MCL last season, and the second one being this one. So again, the Ravens have a mini bye. He got 10 days to heal up now before that big Pittsburgh game. Hopefully he'll be good to go. But yeah, man, I've been all over the place. I'm sure everybody watching this is all over the place, and we have a lot more to dive into because we have a lot of defensive stuff to talk about. Let's just round out the offense first here, though. Derrick Henry didn't do much of anything in this game. Although Cincinnati actually did a very good job stopping him. 4.3 yards per carry for Derrick Henry on the day, 16 for 68 and a touchdown. Lamar 7 for 33. Hey, I'll give credit to Cincy's defense. They did their job when it came to stopping the Ravens' run game for the most part. I mean, Lamar really, he only really got going on that one play where he almost got in the end zone on that crazy runaround game. Hey, man, let's give a shout out to Tylan Wallace, though. I'm giving claps all around to Tylan Wallace right now. 3 for 115. And again, when I talk about Cincinnati, also couldn't get out of their own way. Just atrocious tackling. Tylan Wallace goes 84 yards to the house, tiptoes down that sideline. That's effort versus no effort, right? Bengals were trying to shove him out of bounds. I thought the play was over, not running to the ball. Tylan Wallace made him pay. And I feel so happy for Tylan Wallace. He's had a couple of really big moments over the course of his career. Doesn't have a ton of moments, but his moments are really, really loud when they happen. And in a good way. That's a good thing. I think Tylan has been, when called upon, a really great piece for them. And hey, this might be a hot take. I'd rather see him over Deontay Johnson. Rough go of it for Deontay. Got tackled right before the end of the half inbounds, wasn't able to get out, and then obviously fell down on a throw by Lamar that probably would have been a first down. So did have a 6-yard catch in this one. Mark Andrews, 6 for 68 in a score. Let's revisit quickly. Mark Andrews back, right? We were talking about Mark Andrews and Justin Tucker. Those guys looked a little iffy early in the season. Mark Andrews all the way back. Justin Tucker, we'll have to talk about that one a little later because I don't feel great about that. But we'll revisit that in a couple of minutes. Bateman, a couple of big catches. Did have that one drop, but a couple of big catches. 6 for 54 and a touchdown for Rashad. Zay, 4 for 34. The Bengals did a good job of containing him. Zay made a couple guys miss, but I thought the game plan for Cincy was really anyone but Zay, and the Ravens took advantage of that. Inconsistent day for the offense, but at the end of the day, Lamar ends up going crazy. I believe that is now 6 straight games of Lamar Jackson going over 275 yards. Just unreal stuff. He had a rating of 141 in this game. He was doing everything for this team. Now, coming up in the second part of the show, we're gonna have a realistic conversation about this defense, right? We're gonna really dive into it, and we're gonna have some honest conversations about some coaches and some players on that defensive side of the ball. So be sure to stay tuned. We have a lot to get into. You won't want to miss this on this live instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by Zbiotics. Pure alcohol probiotic drink by Zbiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. Is this byproduct not dehydration that's to blame for your rough next day? Pure alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zbiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how to use it. Step 1, drink pure alcohol. For best results, make pure alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to Zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to Zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. We're back. Second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in. It's now 12:09 a.m. on Friday. The Ravens coming off a big Thursday night win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Felt like a win in some aspects, a loss in others, but hey, a win is a win, is a win, is a win, is a win. But Ravens moved 7-3, 2-1 in the division, and now have a couple of days to rest up. In fact, many days to rest up against, coming up, they got a Pittsburgh Steelers matchup that's going to be absolutely huge. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on video, and also in audio. You can follow along, subscribe there too. We're building up great communities, video form, audio form, social media, subtext as well. Just hit 9,000 subscribers on YouTube, so we're on the road to 10K there in audio form. We're absolutely growing that as well. It's been awesome to see that growth. So tell a friend, tell a family member. We know we can promote on social media all we want to, but word of mouth still very effective. Now, a lot of people want to talk about this defense. Let's talk about this defense. All right. Let's talk about this defense. I don't really want to talk about this defense, but we have to talk about this defense. This defense will not win a Super Bowl. If they play this way, they're not. We're 10 weeks into the season. We're done with, we've been done. We've been done with it's early in the season. They can work it out. You know, they can just, it's not a trend. It's just stuff that they're getting used to. No, we're done with that. We're done with that. We're 10 weeks into the year. We're almost 2+ months now into the season. And this to me, and Maximilian, I want to bring this point up. If this defense costs Lamar a Super Bowl this season, I will be beyond myself. I will be beyond myself. And the sad part about it is that's not out of the realm of possibility. This is an all-time historic offense. Stuff we've never seen before. We've never seen this before. But guess what? Tonight, the Ravens ran into a more incompetent team than they were, and they got the job done because of that. And obviously, they pulled off a comeback, and they stepped up. I think timely defense, like that Marlon play, was very timely. The defense held the Bengals while the Ravens made that comeback and then kind of let go of it late. But this defense, the Ravens are not going to win a Super Bowl with this defense. They're not going to. I mean, I still think that they're Super Bowl contenders. I don't want to make it come off like they're not. But if the defense plays like this against the better team, Cincinnati is not a good team. Joe Burrow's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Jamar Chase, one of the best receivers in the league. Trey Hendrickson, who, to the offensive line's credit, for the most part, I thought they did a really good job of blocking for Lamar in this game. I don't think the Bengals had a single sack in this game, did they? No sacks for the Ravens in this game. I thought the offensive line actually played really well in this one, despite some of the penalties. But that's offense. Right now, defensively, and I think I saw British Raven, Nick, I think he put this in very early. Matabike had 3 sacks in this game. It was the only 3 sacks the Ravens had. $100 million man showing up, right? That is what it is. One of them, I think Joe Burrow's like scrambling, and I think he was tackled like half a yard before the line of scrimmage. But hey, you know what? 3 sacks is 3 sacks, all right? I think seeing some sort of life out of Matabike was a good sign. But David Ojabo was nowhere to be found in this game. A couple of bad plays by him. Marcus Williams, look, I interviewed Marcus when he first came to the team, and he's a really good dude. And I genuinely, believe that, and he is. Like, I know he is a good dude. But, man, it's rough. It is rough, and they have no one else. I mean, the only thing they can do, the only hope for this Ravens secondary, this is such a wild take. I honestly can't believe I'm going to say it. The only hope for this Ravens defense in the secondary is converting Trey White to safety. That's the only hope. The only hope for this defense is praying that Trey White can convert to safety and play there. Or you move Ardarius there into even more of a full-time role. Because I thought Ardarius actually played a pretty good game. I thought Ardarius was really good tonight. But it's one thing when, you miss a tackle and that's obviously not good, or, you misread something. It's another thing when, for Marcus and Brandon Stevens was terrible all game, had the interception almost. He had the one good play. But, man, for night and day from Jamar and the Brandon Stevens matchup last year to this year. But it's another thing for Marcus when he is literally, Jamar Chase runs by Brandon Stevens, and Marcus takes Mike Gesicki, and then the ball is thrown, and Marcus is like, where's the ball? He just he doesn't know where the ball is. That can't happen. That can't happen. So I don't really know for this defense what the answers are, because usually answers are found by now. And I just... I would just be so disappointed if this defense was it's going to be. If the Ravens don't win a Super Bowl, it's probably because of the defense, right? I know that everybody talks about Lamar in the playoffs and whatever. But this Lamar, this offense hasn't played in the playoffs before. That's just a fact. And so I think that, yes, there's still a possibility that, sure, will the Ravens not perform the way that they do in the regular season in the playoffs? Is that the trend? I mean, it's possible. We don't know till we get there. But it's much more likely that this defense is the reason that it cost them. Again, you made timely plays, right, Marlon? Really timely play. I thought Ardarius had a couple of really timely plays. Kyle Hamilton had a couple of really timely plays. Nate Wiggins had a really timely play. But other than that, it's like, okay, Roquan, I thought, looked better, but also had some rough moments still. I thought Roquan was really good in the run game in particular. And again, Cincinnati has nothing to write home about in the run game, so I'm not really concerned with that. But Baltimore's run defense is good anyway, so I'm not really concerned there. Travis Jones was back in, didn't really notice him a ton. I thought Tavius Robinson had a really good play. Adafe Owe had a really good play. Like it's like they have these plays, and then they can't get off the field on third down. What are the third down stats here? Bengals go 8 for 16 on third down. Now, Baltimore was better. They went 7 of 12. I mean, look, man, Lamar Jackson, give me 3rd and 10. Give me 3rd and 15. Give me 3rd and 20. Man, give me Lamar Jackson. That's easy money. It really feels that way. And it's crazy because I've never, like, when it's 3rd and long and stuff, there's always like a impending sense of doom. I don't know if anybody else feels this way. There's like an impending sense of doom where it's like, they're in 3rd and long. It's a terrible situation. But then Lamar just like finds a way to come out of it. And that is what it is. And I will say this, and Kai, I'm with you. The pass rush looked better tonight. It did. Secondary looked terrible. It did. I agree with what you're saying. The pass rush looked better. Now, part of that is Cincinnati's offensive line is awful, just terrible. And they didn't have Orlando Brown. They obviously didn't have Trent Brown either. But you know what? They should have looked better against that group. If they didn't, we'd be having even more concerns. So that is what it is. I'm trying to scroll up, see if we can pull up some more comments here. Hey, Stackhouse, if this is what it is, if they play bad during the regular season and then come alive and clamp down in the postseason, please. I mean, we need something. We need something out of this group. And I'd much rather have it come in the playoffs than it would be in the regular season. But man, I'm telling you, and I know there's a bunch of conversation about the trade deadline and flagship. I see you here. Try to get Lattimore for a 3rd. Campbell deal fell through. Need a trade partner. And, I get it. Like, I'm not saying the Ravens didn't try to get someone at the deadline, but it's still disappointing that, all that came out of that was Deontay and Trey White. I thought that, if you had to overpay, then you should have. And who knows what those conversations were like. I don't know what those were. But defensively, that is going to be the downfall of this team, it feels like. So they need to get it together, but we've been saying that for 10 weeks. I mean, we've been saying that for 10 weeks now. And like we said, Jameis Winston and Bo Nix have all that time, and Jameis Winston and Bo Nix carve you apart. Going to be a rude awakening when Joe Burrow comes to town. It certainly was. Now they were able to win the game. But again, I don't think you win this game if it's Kansas City. Buffalo, I think Baltimore matches up well enough to where they would probably win because Buffalo just can't stop the Ravens offense whatsoever. Like, I feel like Baltimore would score 40 on the Buffalo defense the way that they match up. But there are a lot of teams that I don't think they would beat playing this way. Maybe they don't even beat Buffalo with this. So they have a lot of soul searching to do defensively, a lot of looks in the mirror. But you know what? Like we kind of said it with that Dallas game. We kind of said it with the Bucs game at the end. At least they won the game. All right. That's the silver lining. A win is a win. At least they won the game. But I mean, Zach Orr, players, everybody, hear the call and answer it. This defense needs to play 1,000% better. Coming up in the final part of the show, we'll keep talking defense. We'll move a little bit more into what's next for the Ravens and just continue to dive into a game that I'm still recovering from. So be sure to stay tuned. We got a lot to dive into on this episode, live instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get 100 in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats for live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You're started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste 100. Make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And the show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot, similar to 100 times the cash for your game all season long. On Prize Picks, I love going on Prize Picks, seeing everything they have to offer. Over there, they're always adding new stuff. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotion that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projects up to 25%, provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds to turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. So, for this Ravens and Bengals game, if you had the Jamar Chase, you got look. If you had Jamar Chase, you got more on those receiving yards. You're living large over on Prize Picks. Joe Burrow, more on those passing yards. You're living large over there too. Hey, Lamar Jackson too, more on those passing yards. Now the app today, use code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today, use code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. We are back. Locked On Ravens. Our final segment, Kevin Oestreicher here with you. Just about 12:21 now, Eastern time on now Friday morning. We'll be right back here, 6 a.m. Eastern time, bright and early tomorrow. We're going to be recording another one of these right after we're done here, kind of wrapping up everything, talking about what some of the other people are talking about after this game. Derrick Henry is, praising Lamar. I'm sure we'll get some other opinions coming out as well. Here's Lamar Jackson, by the way, 3rd down in the second half against the Bengals. Shout out to Tony Holzman Escareno here. 7 of 7, 133 passing yards, 19 yards per attempt, 3 pass touchdowns, no interceptions, and that perfect 158.3 passer rating. Just unbelievable stuff by Lamar Jackson. I mean, Skip Bayless is praising him, like all of this other stuff. And, we just got, okay, I didn't even realize. All right, Flagship actually was reporting what was said here. Ravens offered a 3rd for Lattimore, and we're close to getting Clowney, but couldn't get the job done. Oh, apparently it was Campbell. Not Clowney. It was Calais Campbell. So, all right, Flagship, appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I didn't realize that that was actually reported. So thank you for that. But at this point, man, I can't. I don't even know. First of all, thank you for tuning into the show. I mean, I'm still recovering from everything. We got a lot of people in the chat here. Everybody is tuning in. Hey, Pocket Watch, appreciate you. This is where all the cool kids come. And Joe, shout out to you. And of course, yes, Zach is not in the chat here. Zach Bollinger is not. But we do this after every single Ravens game. We go live and we break it down. Win, lose, hopefully not ties. We hate ties over here on Locked On Ravens. No ties. Say it with me. No ties on Locked On Ravens. But for what's going on in John, no, not a third for Campbell. Apparently it was a third for Lattimore, and then they were also close to getting Campbell, but it never happened. So let's play a game to start off here, this final part of the show, because I'm curious. Do you consider this game, like, take out the fact that they won the game, right? Take out the fact that they won. And you can put this in the live chat. You can comment it down below if you're watching after the fact. You can message me on social media if you're listening. Do you consider this a win or a loss for the Ravens? Do you feel like it's a win or do you feel like it's a loss? I'll repeat the question. Do you feel like it's a win or do you feel like it's a loss for the Ravens? Like, how do you feel after this game? Do you feel good? Do you feel not good? Are you like, could have done better? Happy we got the win? Like, what are your emotions? Because for me, I'm like, look, I'm really happy they won the game, right? Win is a win. Like, don't get me wrong. You can't take that away. But I don't feel like the best about it. Like, you feel good it's a win, but you feel like there's a lot of room to improve. And this would have been the worst type of loss, especially considering the Ravens just roped you in and then they were out and then they roped you back in again. And then, they roped you out. So I feel like it's a good win. Like, I feel like it's a good win, especially the way that they won. Like, the way that they won makes it so much better because, there are all those outdated and honestly never true narratives like, oh, Lamar, he can't come back. And he, second half, you have to make him throw and you can't win. All that was terrible in the first place and wasn't even true. Honestly, like, we could throw that stuff out. But, hey, to me, I think, look, you win a divisional game. You come back on the Bengals. But the defense is an issue, right? Defense is an issue. And, hey, Daniel, good point. It was a short week. It's hard to play on short weeks. And now the Ravens can go and – imagine how dreadful it would have been. We would have had to hear about, this Ravens team for 10 days after a loss and – talking about, okay, hearing all the national media talk, and you hear that for 10 days. Now it can be a little better, right? Now it can be a little better. So a win is a win, most definitely. And that's kind of what I see, right? A win is a win. And this one here from Zara, this kind of sums it up, right? It's a win. We're in mid-season. You should accept that your defense is non-existent. Bad coordinator, and you deal with it by bolstering the offense. I mean, the Ravens are going to have to look at this point. We kind of all have to accept this. And Zara, I'm kind of with you here. I think we all have to accept that the Ravens more than likely or more often than not are going to have to put up 30 plus points every single game to win. There will be games that they blow teams out like Denver, right? That will happen. But I mean, if you get a team like Pittsburgh who has played really well with Russell Wilson. You get Philadelphia, who, has A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. That offense is loaded with weapons. I mean, at this rate, I think Lamar Jackson is going to lose to the Eagles. Might not be Lamar's fault, but, that defense, Eagles might put up 50 on this defense with all the weapons they have, including Saquon. So your defense is just like it is what it is, right? It is what it is. So it's different because, yeah, Brian, this is a good point here, right? It's so weird to kind of talk about the offense this way because historically it's like the Ravens are historically a defensive team. Obviously that shifted when Lamar came in, and not that the defense went away when Lamar first came in, but this is by far one of the worst defenses, especially pass wise. Run defense, they've been good, but this is one of the worst, if not the worst, pass defense that the Ravens have ever had in their franchise history. And they're 7-3 because Lamar Jackson is that good, right? That good. So it is what it is. And you grew up on this Ravens team, right? With you got Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs, Haloti Ngata, right? Like you got the Tony Siragusas and all those guys and Chris McAllister's, right? You can go on and on with those historic level defenses, particularly that 2000 group. And we're sitting here now and we're praying the defense can hold the opposing team to 20 points? It's kind of crazy what it is, but I'm with you, Spirit Bomb. Lamar Jackson's the MVP. People talk about Jared Goff. People are talking about Joe Burrow, and they shouldn't be talking about Joe Burrow. Not because he hasn't played like one he has, but because the Bengals' record is too far gone. For those who don't know, I'm a Nuggets fan, Denver Nuggets guy, and I proudly wear that. I wear that alongside my Ravens and Orioles fandom. I do. But when Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets were the 6th seed, he won the MVP. But a lot of people were mad about it when they were the 6th seed because there were other guys who were higher up in that conversation that, they probably deserved it because the team record was better. And that's the conversation that people are having about Joe Burrow, where the Bengals are 4-6 now. And Joe Burrow's playing great. But the thing with Jokic was that he was still so much better than everybody else that season. But there were other guys who could have given it to because the record was that much better. But Jokic was still the best player that year. But for Joe Burrow, Lamar's playing better than Joe. And Joe's second best, man. Joe's right there with him. Like, it is close. But Lamar, the record is better. Lamar has been better. The eye test for Lamar, like all this stuff, not trying to take away from Joe. Because Joe was great in this game. He's been great all season. But Lamar Jackson is your MVP. And yep, Ravens big trust. I'm with you. This is what I've been saying all show. Because of the fumble to change the game, to give the team momentum, it was Marlon Humphrey. I'm crediting this one to Marlon. Marlon Humphrey deserves the game ball for this one. But hey, Brandon, this is the positive outlook, right? We know the defense is not great. But if we look at it the other way, which we've been saying, change your perspective. And the offense that we're looking at right now is the best in Baltimore Charm City ever in franchise history. And Brandon, another like ever. And it's true, right? And hey, Daniel, we talked about Tylan Wallace earlier. Got to give another shout out to him because effort plays, big catches. Mark had those plays. Rashad had those plays. And yeah, I don't know what Dean Pease and Zach Orr and this defense is going to do come playoff time, but it has to be better than what we have seen. And man, if I'm a Bengals fan, I get why they hate the Ravens. Man, it's like you play two of the best games ever and you lose both on like heartbreakers. And by the way, the Bengals 1,000% should have gone for 2. I know we talked about that at the beginning of the show, but to me, hey, you remember 2021? Do you remember how awful that season was in terms of 2-point conversions and the Ravens lining up for it every single week, it seemed like, and them just failing over and over and over again? Felt kind of good to have one go the Ravens' way, right? Felt kind of good to had one go the Ravens' way. So offense sputtered in the first half. Thought Todd Monken got a little cute with his play calling, but they bounced back in the second. And really proud of how they're able to come back in this game. Resiliency, right? A win counts as a win regardless of if it's pretty, if it's ugly, if it's 1 point, if it's 30 points. A win counts all the same. So Baltimore got the job done. They have 10 days to rest up, get healthy, and get their minds right out of another divisional matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's all I have for you today, though, on this edition of Locked On Ravens, rounding out at 12:30 a.m. Eastern time. But fret not, we'll be back here 5.5 hours from 12:30 a.m., 6 a.m. Eastern time, right back, talking about the Ravens a little more, talking about what people are saying about this team, what the Ravens are saying about their team, and just breaking down the Ravens and Bengals game even more. So on the way out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate everybody for tuning in an audio form. Be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe button on the way out as well. See you back here soon on Locked On Ravens. We got a 6 a.m. episode coming out. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.